Good morning, it's April 7th. This is Tuesday's math, and we're in Math 5, and we've started our new lesson on decimals. So let's go ahead and jump in, and if you will look at your worksheet there, try not to work ahead and get started, but go ahead and look at your worksheet as we compare and order decimals. And I want to talk about what's going on in this orange box. It says, compare the digits in the place of the greatest value. Okay, so they give us some numbers. They give us 2.63, 0.263, 26.3, and 3.26. Okay, so if you'll notice when I wrote these numbers down, which is what I suggest for you to do, I wrote them vertically and I lined them up in their decimal points so that way they're ordered by their place value. And we want to look at their place value to see which is the greatest and which is the least. So here they want us to start with the smallest number. Well, what I want to do is these don't matter until we've compared the whole numbers. Okay? So I am just looking at the whole numbers. Well, tell me which is the smallest, 2, 0, 26, or 3? Well, I hope you said 0. So that's going to be what I order the least number as, is 0 and 263 thousandths. Okay? Does it matter that there's a 263 on this side? No. We're just going to compare our whole numbers. Now, if we compare our whole numbers and they're the same, then we have to start looking at what the decimal is. Okay? So, looking at just your whole numbers, which number is next? 2 and 63 hundredths, which is next? 3 and 26 hundredths, and which is last? 26 and 3 tenths. 26 and 3 tenths being the greatest number. Okay? Now, I want us to look at the next problem, because this one's pretty easy to compare those whole numbers. We didn't even have to look at the decimal places. It's kind of like doing ABC order. If you match up the first letter, you have to look at the next letter, right? So I'm going to line up the next problem. 0 and 17 hundredths, 0 and 7 thousandths, 0 and 8 tenths, and then 0 and 7 hundredths. Okay? So here what we're going to do is we're going to add on zeros or annex zeros to make all of our decimal numbers even. Okay, so this has 3 place values. This one has 3 place values. We want to give this one 3 place values. And this one 3 place values. So we annexed those zeros. And I'm going to show you why we do that. Because when I look at my ones place, I see, oh, they're all the same. So now I have to look at the decimal place value. Okay, well, what might happen is I look at this 17 and I say, well, wow, that's bigger than 8, isn't it? Well, this is why it's really important to annex those zeros. Because really, once I get them all the same place value, I'm comparing this 170 compared to 7 compared to 800 compared to 70. Okay? So I hope you go, oh, I see that 800 is actually the biggest number here. Okay? Another way to do that is the same way we do alphabetical order and say, okay, well, let's only look at the next place value. Let me turn this. Let's look at the next place value, the tenths place. I have a 1, a 0, an 8, and a 0. Which is the biggest of these numbers? Well, the 8 is. So it's the biggest number in the set. Does that make sense? So either way that you want to look at it, you can annex the zeros or you can just look at each place value. In this case, if I'm looking at just the place value, I see that I have 2 zeros. And I'm doing least to greatest. So I know it's got to be this one or this one. And just like alphabetical order, if these are the same, I'm going to mark them out. These are the same, I'm going to mark them out. And I'm going to go to the next one, which is smaller, 0 or 7. 0, right? And if we compare them as a number after annexing the zeros, we can see that this is actually still the smallest number, which whichever way you're more comfortable looking at it. So my smallest number is 0 and 7 thousandths. My next one, of course, would follow suit to be this one, 0 and 7 tenths. So what would my next one be? I've done this one, and I've done this one. Well, I look and I compare the first digit here in the tenths place, and I see that 1 is smaller than 8, so 0 and 17 tenths, and then this one is 8 tenths. So now I've ordered them from least to greatest, and I hope that made sense to you. We're going to do alligator eats the bigger number, so greater than, less than sign today, and we're going to be doing some multiplying times the decimal, okay? So if you will just look, I'll do the example that's in the green box with you. This is 2 and 56 hundredths times 2. Okay, so when I have decimals, I'm just going to multiply as normal like the decimal's not there. Now in adding, don't we bring it down? Yes, we don't do that in multiplication. Now it may look that way in the answer, but that's not how we do decimals in multiplication. 2 times 6 is 12, carry the 1. 2 times 5 is 10, plus 1 is 11. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. Okay, so I get 512, but